The ruins of St. Clement's Church in Visby, Sweden, stand shrouded in mist, their ancient walls whispering secrets of the past. The eerie glow of twilight casts long shadows on the cobblestone streets, hinting at the forgotten mysteries hidden within. The medieval town of Visby, nestled on the Swedish island of Gotland, had long been a place where history and legend intertwined. Cobbled streets wound through ancient stone buildings, and the sea air carried whispers of old tales. But among all its relics, none were as enigmatic as the ruins of St. Clement's Church. Its crumbling walls, overgrown with ivy, bore witness to centuries of storms and battles, yet something about the site was unsettling. Locals spoke of eerie whispers carried by the wind, of flickering shadows that moved when no one was there. Some dismissed these as stories meant to thrill tourists. Others, especially those whose families had lived in Visby for generations, knew better. When Erik Norberg, a historian specializing in medieval Scandinavian architecture, arrived in Visby to study the ruins, he had no idea that he was about to uncover one of Sweden's most haunting mysteries. A scholar's arrival, Erik's journey to Visby had been long but filled with anticipation. As the ferry approached the island, the sight of the towering city walls filled him with a strange sense of déjà vu, as if he had been there before in another life. After checking into a modest guesthouse run by an elderly couple, Johan and Maria Lindström, he wasted no time in setting out to see the ruins. "You must be the historian," Johan said as he handed Erik his room key. "Going to St. Clement's, I suppose." "That's the plan," Erik replied, surprised by the knowing look in the old man's eyes. Johan hesitated before adding, "Keep an open mind, young man. Not everything in those ruins is dead." Erik laughed politely, chalking it up to local folklore, and set off toward the church. The ruins were even more imposing than he had imagined. Though partially collapsed, the towering stone arches still cast long shadows over the uneven ground. Some of the intricate carvings on the pillars had been preserved, hinting at the church's former grandeur. But as he ran his fingers along the cold, weathered stone, he felt something, a deep, unshakable unease, like he was being watched. Erik Norberg, a young historian, stands before the ruins of St. Clement's Church, studying the ancient stonework. The setting sun casts long shadows, emphasizing the mystery and unease surrounding the forgotten site. The hidden chamber. As Erik took careful notes on the remaining architecture, he noticed something odd. On the northern wall, near what had once been the choir area, a section of stonework looked newer. It wasn't perfectly aligned with the rest of the ruins, and the mortar seemed less eroded by time. Curiosity gnawed at him. According to historical records, St. Clement's had been abandoned for centuries. Why would anyone seal off part of it? Determined to investigate, Erik reached out to Ingrid Dahl, a local archaeologist who had worked on several historical sites across Gotland. "Ingrid, I think there's something hidden in the ruins of St. Clement's," Erik said over coffee at a small cafe near the harbor. She raised an eyebrow. "People have been studying that site for years. You think you found something they missed? Come see for yourself," he insisted. Later that afternoon, Ingrid arrived with a portable ground-penetrating radar. As they ran the scanner over the wall, their suspicions were confirmed. A hollow space lay beyond. "We need to open it up," Erik said, his excitement barely contained. It took them hours to carefully remove the stones, and when they finally exposed an opening, a rush of stale air escaped, carrying the scent of age and decay. Flashlights in hand, they stepped inside. What they found made their blood run cold. Lining the chamber walls were skeletal remains, their bones twisted unnaturally. Some had deep scratches in the stone, as if they had tried to claw their way out. At the center of the room stood an altar, upon which lay a tattered leather-bound book, its pages covered in Latin text and strange symbols. Erik swallowed hard. This isn't just an ordinary burial site. Something happened here. Erik Norberg and Ingrid Dahl uncover a hidden chamber beneath the ruins of St. Clement's Church. Their flashlights reveal skeletal remains in an ancient altar with a mysterious book, shrouded in an unsettling stillness. Whispers in the dark. That night, Erik found himself unable to sleep. His mind raced with thoughts of the hidden chamber and the eerie remains within. He kept rereading the Latin passages from the book they had recovered, but the archaic phrasing made translation slow and difficult. Then, just as he was beginning to drift off, he heard it. A whisper. It was faint at first, barely distinguishable from the rustling leaves outside his window. But then it grew louder, clearer. It was a woman's voice, sorrowful, pleading. "Help us." Erik bolted upright, his pulse pounding. He rushed to the window, but the streets below were empty. A cold unease settled over him. The next morning, he shared his experience with Ingrid, expecting her to dismiss it. Instead, she sighed and rubbed her temples. "You're not the first to hear her," she admitted. "That voice has been reported by locals for generations." Together, they combed through historical records at the town archives. After hours of searching, they came across an old court document detailing the trial of a woman named Alina, accused of witchcraft in the 13th century. She had been sentenced to death, but her body was never found. The more they read, the more horrifying the truth became. Alina and several others had been imprisoned beneath the church, accused of practicing forbidden rituals. They were sealed inside, buried alive. Eric Norberg encounters the ghostly apparition of a medieval woman in the ruins of St. Clement's Church. The spectral figure, shrouded in sorrow, pleads silently as the mist swirls around them, heightening the eerie atmosphere. The reckoning. Determined to put an end to the suffering tied to St. Clement's, Eric and Ingrid returned to the ruins with the ancient book. The text suggested that a ritual had once been conducted there, one that bound souls to the site. But there was also a way to undo it. At midnight, under a sky heavy with clouds, they followed the instructions in the book. They lit candles and began to recite the Latin words. As they spoke, the temperature dropped. The wind howled through the ruins, and a thick mist began to rise from the ground. Shadows danced unnaturally against the walls. And then, a figure emerged. Alina. She was barely more than a silhouette, her features blurred by the spectral glow that surrounded her. But her eyes, filled with pain, longing, and something else, pleaded with them. "Release us." With one final chant, Eric and Ingrid finished the ritual. The air around them exploded in a rush of light and sound, and then, silence. The mist cleared, the shadows receded, and for the first time in centuries, the ruins of St. Clement's felt peaceful. The spirits were gone. Eric Norberg and Ingrid Dahl perform the ancient ritual in the hidden chamber beneath St. Clement's Church. As candles flicker, a powerful light emerges, freeing the trapped spirits and dissolving centuries of sorrow into the mist. Epilogue. A town without whispers. In the days that followed, the eerie atmosphere around St. Clement's seemed to lift. Locals who had always avoided the site now found it strangely inviting. The strange whispers ceased, and the town of Visby returned to its quiet charm. Eric documented everything he had uncovered, ensuring that the story of Alina and the others would not be forgotten. His research was eventually published, bringing a wave of new interest to the ruins. But for those who had lived in Visby all their lives, the change was simple yet profound. The wind no longer carried the sound of mournful whispers. The ruins no longer felt cursed. And somewhere, in whatever lay beyond, Alina's soul was finally at peace.